Subscribe to Sinister Shadows Studio, The Bleeding Fields. I remember the day the war began. The sky was a brilliant blue, untouched by the horrors that would soon unfold beneath its serene facade. We were eager, young men, fueled by patriotism and a sense of duty to our country. Little did we know that our journey would lead us down a path of darkness from which there would be no return. The first few weeks of the war were a blur of chaos and confusion. We marched through foreign lands, our boots crushing the earth beneath us as the distant rumble of artillery filled the air. It wasn't long before the true nature of our mission became clear: to conquer, to destroy, to leave nothing but death and despair in our wake. As the days turned into weeks, and the weeks into months, the once eager faces of my comrades grew hollow and gaunt. We had seen things that no man should ever witness: the mangled bodies of our fallen brothers, the cries of innocent civilians caught in the crossfire, the relentless march of death that followed us wherever we went. But nothing could have prepared us for what awaited us in the heart of the battlefield. It was a place that had been forgotten by time, a desolate expanse of land where the very air seemed to thrum with an otherworldly energy. We called it the Bleeding Fields, for it was said that the earth itself bled with the blood of the fallen. It was there, amidst the twisted wreckage of war machines and the shallow graves of the dead, that we encountered something beyond our comprehension. It started with whispers, soft and insidious, drifting through the air like a sinister melody. At first, we dismissed them as the product of our frayed nerves, the hallucinations of weary minds pushed to the brink of insanity by the horrors of war. But the whispers persisted, growing louder and more urgent with each passing day. They spoke of ancient curses and forgotten sins, of a darkness that had been awakened by the bloodshed that stained the earth. And as we listened, we felt something stirring beneath our feet, a malevolent presence that hungered for our souls. I remember the night it happened, the night the darkness swallowed us whole. We were huddled together in our makeshift camp, the flickering light of the campfire our only solace in the endless sea of shadows that surrounded us. And then, without warning, the ground began to tremble beneath us, the earth groaning as if in agony. We watched in horror as the very ground beneath our feet began to split open, revealing a gaping chasm of darkness that seemed to stretch on into infinity. And from that darkness emerged creatures unlike anything I had ever seen, twisted, grotesque forms, with eyes that gleamed with a hunger that sent shivers down my spine. They descended upon us like a swarm of locusts, their claws tearing through flesh and bone with an unholy fervor. I fought with all my strength, my rifle a feeble barrier against the tide of darkness that threatened to consume us. But it was futile. One by one, my comrades fell, their screams swallowed by the void. I ran, my heart pounding in my chest, my mind consumed by terror. I stumbled through the darkness, the echoes of my own footsteps, the only sound in the oppressive silence that surrounded me. But no matter how far I ran, the darkness followed, a relentless shadow that pursued me with a hunger that knew no bounds. In the end, I found myself standing alone on the edge of the abyss, the last remnants of my sanity slipping away into the void. And as the darkness closed in around me, I knew that I was doomed to wander the bleeding fields for all eternity, a lost soul trapped in a nightmare of war gone wrong, the forgotten battlefield. The sky above was a canvas of darkness, painted with the flickering lights of distant explosions. I stood alone in the heart of the battlefield, surrounded by the echoes of war that reverberated through the night. The acrid scent of smoke and blood filled my nostrils, and the weight of my rifle felt heavy in my trembling hands. We had been sent to this forsaken place to fight a war that no one truly understood. The lines between friend and foe had long since blurred, and every shadow seemed to conceal a new threat. But nothing could have prepared me for what awaited in the darkness. I had been separated from my unit in the chaos of battle, left to navigate the treacherous landscape alone. The only company I had was the relentless pounding of artillery and the distant cries of the wounded. I pressed on, driven by a primal instinct to survive, to escape this nightmare unscathed. As I crested a small hill, I caught sight of something in the distance. It was a structure, half hidden by the veil of night, its silhouette jagged and foreboding against the backdrop of explosions. Curiosity mingled with dread as I approached, my footsteps hesitant against the uneven terrain. The closer I drew, the more the structure revealed itself. It was a fortress, ancient and crumbling, its walls scarred by centuries of conflict. But there was something else, something that sent a chill down my spine. Carved into the stone were symbols I could not recognize, symbols that seemed to pulse with an otherworldly energy. I hesitated, my instinct screaming at me to turn back, but a morbid curiosity held me in its grip. With each step, the air grew heavier, as if the very atmosphere itself was tainted by the darkness that dwelled within those walls. As I reached the entrance, a sense of dread washed over me like a tidal wave. The air was thick with an oppressive silence, broken only by the sound of my own ragged breaths. I stepped inside, my senses on high alert, my rifle held tightly against my chest. The interior of the fortress was a labyrinth of winding corridors and shadowed alcoves. The walls seemed to pulsate with a life of their own, as if they were alive and watching my every move. I pressed on, my heart hammering in my chest, my mind plagued by visions of the horrors that lurked in the darkness. And then, I saw them. Figures lurking in the shadows, their forms twisted and contorted beyond recognition. They moved with an unnatural grace, their eyes gleaming with a malevolent light. I tried to run, to escape the nightmare that surrounded me, but it was futile. They were everywhere, closing in on me with each passing moment. I raised my rifle, my hands shaking uncontrollably, but before I could take aim, they were upon me. Their touch was like ice against my skin, sending shivers down my spine. I screamed, a primal cry of terror that echoed through the corridors of the fortress, but no one came to my aid. In that moment, I knew that I was doomed to wander these cursed halls for all eternity, a prisoner of war lost to the ravages of time. And as the darkness consumed me, I prayed for a swift end to my torment, for a release from the horrors of war gone wrong. But in the end, there was only silence, a silence broken only by the echoes of my own screams, lost to the void of the forgotten battlefield, echoes of war. The night was draped in darkness, broken only by the sporadic bursts of gunfire and the distant wails of the wounded. I crouched in the trenches, my heart pounding with a rhythm matching the artillery barrage echoing around me. War had a way of distorting reality, of plunging us into a nightmarish realm where the boundaries between friend and foe blurred into a murky haze. I was a soldier, but in this chaos I could hardly remember which side I fought for anymore. All that mattered was survival. Survival in a desolate landscape where death lurked in every shadow, where the air was thick with the acrid stench of gunpowder and blood. My comrades huddled beside me, their faces etched with fear and exhaustion. We were a ragtag band of warriors, brought together by the cruel hand of war. But even as we fought side by side, a sense of distrust lingered in the air. How could we trust each other when our very existence depended on the pull of a trigger? The night wore on, each passing moment stretching into eternity. And then, amidst the chaos, a strange silence descended upon the battlefield. It was as if the world held its breath, waiting for the next act of brutality to unfold. That's when I heard it. A whisper, soft and insidious, slithering through the darkness like a serpent. At first, I dismissed it as a trick of my frayed nerves, a figment of my imagination born out of the horrors of war. But the whisper persisted, growing louder and more distinct with each passing moment. I glanced around, searching for the source of the sound, but found nothing. My comrades remained oblivious, lost in their own private hells. It was then that I realized the whisper was meant for me and me alone. "Who's there?" I called out, my voice trembling with a mixture of fear and defiance. No response. Only the eerie silence of the night greeted me in return. But the whisper continued, growing more urgent, more demanding. It spoke of forgotten truths and buried secrets, of sins committed in the name of honor and duty. And with each word, the darkness seemed to deepen, swallowing me whole. I felt a chill creeping up my spine as a sudden realization dawned upon me. The whisper was not coming from the world outside, but from within. It was the voice of my own conscience, tainted by the atrocities I had witnessed and committed. I tried to block it out, to drown out the accusing whispers with the roar of gunfire and the screams of the dying, but it was futile. The whisper grew louder, more insistent, until it felt like it was tearing me apart from the inside out. I closed my eyes, praying for the madness to end. But when I opened them again, I found myself standing alone in the midst of a battlefield transformed. The sky above was blood red, illuminated by flames that danced across the horizon like vengeful spirits. And then, emerging from the shadows, I saw them. The fallen soldiers, their bodies twisted and broken, their eyes empty yet accusing. They reached out to me with skeletal hands, their voices joining together in a chorus of anguished screams. I stumbled backward, the ground beneath me slick with blood and mud. But no matter how far I ran, the whispers followed, a relentless reminder of the sins that stained my soul. In the end, I realized there was no escape. War had consumed me, body and soul, leaving nothing behind but a hollow shell haunted by the echoes of the past. And as the darkness closed in around me, I welcomed its embrace. For in that moment, I knew that death would be my only refuge from the horrors of war gone wrong. Like and subscribe to Sinister Shadow Studio.